Hello everyone, my name is Shriniket Ravdekar and today I'm going to explain you 6 clauses of SQL queries. Till now you must have some idea what SQL queries are, what are the applications, what are the use cases, what is the importance of these queries. So I'm going to explain you these clauses which are really useful in these queries. So let's start with our very first clause, select clause. Select clause is followed by the name of the attributes. Select clause is used to display the data, whatever data set you have, whatever tables you have. You are going to choose what attributes you want to show. So this is done by using select clause. Select clause is followed by from clause. These two are mandatory, and this goes together. So from clause is used to select the table from which you want to display the data. So it's simple. Select clause is used to choose the name of the attributes. From clause is used to choose the name of the table from which you want to display the data. Okay, good so far. So let's see the next clause. Next clause is where clause, and in my opinion, this is the most important clause. We use this kind of clause in real world, like I want to select some data, like when I go to library, I want to uh, get some books. So what books I want, I'm going to put my criteria. That is a condition. I want only those books whose name is like database systems, or the author is some dash dash dash. So this is my condition, and it is used in it is used we use this every moment. Like if I want to go to shopping, I'm going to, let's say I'm going to buy some shoes. I want to I'm going to select only those shoes which costs me less than say $50 or $100. So rest are irrelevant for me. Might be relevant for some other uh, kids, but for me, I'm going to select only those which costs less than $50. That is my condition. And the similar thing we are going to use in the database by using where clause. Okay, we are going to see the details in upcoming slides, so don't worry if not clear in this slide. We are going to see the details and examples in upcoming slides. Okay, moving on. Next is group by clause. Group by clause is used to form some categories, form some groups among all the records. So let's say there is a data set, there is table called as patients. And I'm a doctor. I want to see only those. I want to see the patients which has. I want to form a group of the patients by their blood group. I want to have some count. I want to see how many patients are there which has blood group B positive or O positive or something else. So this is where group by clause is used. It is used to form categories. It's used to form groups. Simple. So next is having clause. Having clause is pretty similar to where clause. It is also used to put some conditions. Except there is a slight difference that I'm going to explain you in upcoming slide. So we will see that later. So next clause is order by clause. Order by clause is simply used to sort the data, sort the result set. Let's say I want to display the data in some particular order. So this is where order by clause is used. Okay. So let's start with our very first clause, or let's say, or I must say, our two clauses which are mandatory: select and from clause. It is very basic clauses. These are very basic clauses. Select and from. I want to select some attributes. I'm going to mention the name of the columns and from which database, from which table that I'm going to mention by using from clause. Select chooses name of the attributes, and from is used to choose name of the table. Very basic. So this is the example. Select star from students. Now star indicates here all attributes. Star means all. I want to display all the attributes, and which table that is indicated by using from clause. I have created students table here, and I want to see all the attributes. So select star from students. Okay. So let's say I want to display only first name and grades for my convenience. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to mention the name of the columns here, first name, comma grades, and table name here, followed by uh, which follows from clause. Okay, simple. Select first name, comma grades from students. So simple. Let's try another one here. I'm going to display here grades and first name. Now note here that the order is not important here. I can choose any order in which I want to display the data, because in original table the first name comes first before grades, but I want to display the grades first, so I can do that. So it really doesn't matter what order you give. You can give in any order that you want. Okay. Let's see our next clause, which is where clause. Now I mentioned earlier that this is very important in my opinion, because we use this clause in our life, day-to-day life, right? As I mentioned earlier, let's say I want to buy some shoes. I'm going to have some condition. I have only $100. I have only $50. So I cannot uh, select the shoes which cost more than $50. So this is the condition. The same thing we are going to use in database. Let's say I have thousands of records, and so instead of that, let's see our example here. Uh, okay, so let's say we have coding competition among all Sun universities, and the head of department from Binghamton University wants to send some students to that competition. So he wants to send some only brilliant students. So let's say there is a criteria. Brilliant students is equal to students who has grade greater than 70 on scale of 100. Yeah, it is ridiculous, but yeah. Let's say brilliant students are only those who has grades greater than 70. So this is my condition. This is the condition on which I want to select the data. So this is how I'm going to use it. Select all, or whatever the attribute names are. For now, I'm going to use all from students table where grades is greater than 70. So only those records are going to get selected who has grades greater than 70. Note here that I have 8 rows here. This is my original table, and after this condition I now have 5 records here. Okay, so this is used, where clause is used to narrow down the selection. Now, as a head of department, this is the relevant data for me. The other students, not very useful. I don't want to send them. So those records are not important for me. So this is where clause is used. It is very important in real life, and there are many applications. There are many applications where this clause is used. There are many use cases. Let's say company wants to hire some students for a job. So let's say Amazon. Amazon accepts thousands of applications. So let's say there are 10,000 applications. They are not going to review each and every application. That is very time consuming. So what they choose to do is they are going to choose only those applications, only those students who has grades greater than 3.7 or 3.8, let's say, on scale of 4. So that is what they are doing. That's called as narrowing down the selection. The selection criteria is uh, I'm going to have some selection criteria, according to which only those students I want who qualifies that selection criteria. Okay, so this is where it is used, and it is very useful. Uh, it This clause works like kind of filter. Let's say online shopping. I'm doing some online shopping, and there are thousands of products. I don't want each and every product. I want uh, to buy shoes, so I'm going to filter by shoes. And only those products which comes into that category, shoes, will be displayed to me. Again, further filter I'm going to use is on cost. Only those shoes I want to get displayed which has cost less than $50. So this is where, if they have this SQL queries running in background, this is what they are going to do. Select shoes or select all from items where cost is less than $50. Simple. This is how this is how where clause is used in any application. So that is why this is very useful. There are thousands of applications. I just mentioned two here: online shopping and let's say there is a library system or company management system. I want to use filter there. I'm going to use where clause. Let's say LinkedIn jobs. I want to select. I want to get displayed only those jobs whose job location is, let's say, New York. So this is where clause is used. All right. So next, okay, yeah. So where clause is not just limited for select keyword or select clause. It is used in some other queries like update and delete queries. Let's say I want to update some record on uh, some particular condition. I want to uh, change the change some particular attributes. So how am I going to select that particular attribute? By using where clause. I want to delete some particular record. I am going to use where clause. Okay, so where clause is not just used in select; it is also used in update and delete. That's why it is very important, basic and important. Okay, so I hope it is clear. So let's move on to our next clause, group by clause. So as I mentioned earlier, it is used to categorize the data. We have we have large data set which has thousands of records. So we want to form some category. As I mentioned earlier, some patients, as a doctor, I want to see the patients by their blood group. So I'm going to use group by clause. Okay. Uh, so here is the example. I have students table and I want to categorize them by their home country. So I'm going to select country and count of student ID. Now this count is a aggregate function. Whenever we use group by clause, we have to use this aggregate function because we are grouping the records, right? So we have to use some aggregate functions uh, which give meaning to that group. Like I have formed a group like the students from China. Number of those students is 2. There are 3 students from India, 3 from United States of America. So that's where this aggregate function is used. I am grouping the data by the country and I want to know their count. So The count is a one function. There are many aggregate functions like average, sum, min, max. There are many. So let's say I want to calculate the average of the students. I'm going to group them by country. Let's say I want to see students from USA. What is the average of their grades? From India, what is the average? From China, what is the average? So this is where I'm going to use group by clause, and the aggregate function I'm going to use here is average. Okay, so this is my original table. So whenever I'm going to use group by function on some particular attribute, here I'm using country as attribute. So the common country are going to get together, going to get aggregated. That's why we have to use aggregated functions on them. So here all the records which has common country are going to group into one. Like here student ID 1, 2 and 8 has same country. So these are going to group into one. And what operation I am going to perform on them, like aggregate function, if I want count, this is count as 3 because there are 3 students. If I choose to calculate the average of their grades, it will be like 70 plus 90 plus 100 divided by 3. Alright, so this is what I'm doing here. The aggregate here is 86. Alright, aggregate for USA is 93. And this is also very common clause and has many applications. Let's say uh, Olympic Games are held, and I want to know which country has won how many medals. And let's say there is a large record set. There are athletes which plays different sport like 100-meter, like swimming. There is going to be huge data set. I just want to know which country won how many medals. This is where I'm going to use group by clause. It will be like something like select country, comma, select country, comma, count of their ID from that particular table name, and I'm going to group them by country. So this is how I'm going to get the count of which country won how many medals. Okay, this is another example. I want to group the students by their age. So here I am going to choose age and average grades, and I'm going to group these students by their age. Okay, clear? This is very useful and has also has many applications. And this is particularly useful when you have finite set and the records which had some common uh, values like country, like age group, like blood group. They are not going to be huge number of values. There are finite number of values. Blood group B positive, O positive, and some 5 or 6 blood groups, like, right? So it's not very useful on name, first name, last name. Not very useful. So this is where we are going to use group by clause. Okay. So next one is having clause. Now, as I mentioned earlier, this serves similar purpose as where there is a slight difference. What is that? Now, let's say I have count of these students. I have grouped them by country, their home country, and I have their counts. I have 2 students from China, 3 from India, 3 from United States of America. So I want to select only those records who has count greater than 2. So how am I going to do that? So for this, one might say that I can use where clause, where count of the student IDs is greater than 2. But no, I cannot use where clause whenever I am using group by clause, because this gives me aggregated result. This gives me result in form of groups. And where clause, how where clause works. What where clause does is it's going to check every single record. It's, let's say I want grades greater than 70. I'm putting condition where grades is greater than 70. What where clause does is it's going to scan every single record. It's going to check whether grade is greater than 70. Here, grades is not greater than 70, so it doesn't qualify that condition. So we are not going to select that particular record. Next, net is greater than 70, yes. So I am going to select this record. 100 is greater than 70, yes. So I am going to select this record. So where clause scan every single record, and here we are getting aggregated result, like the result in form of group. So this is the reason we cannot use where clause here. So we have another clause for that purpose, which is having clause. Whenever we want to put some condition on aggregated result, we are going to use having clause. Here, select age, average from students. We are grouping them by age, and for condition we are going to use having clause. Having average grades greater than 70. Only those records will be selected who has average grades greater than 70. Okay, clear? Let's see. Let's go to our next clause, which is order by clause. This is very simple, and it is basically used to sort the result set. Whatever uh, result set you have, if you want that in particular order, you are going to use order by clause. And note here, we are mentioning order here in ascending or descending order. Let's say I want to view the records in descending order. Grades, I want to records which has higher grades first. So I'm going to use uh, order by, and that order is going to be descending. DESC indicates descending order. Okay, this is very simple. So we can use this all 6 clauses in single SQL query like this, and note that there we must follow some order whenever we are using all these clauses, because some of these forms group, like group by follows will give us aggregated result, uh, to which we cannot apply where clause. So, and having clause is used on aggregated result. So uh, having clause should be used after group by clause, and you cannot use where clause after group by clause, because where works on a single record and not aggregated result. Order by clause has no such criteria. It can work on single or aggregated result, so it really doesn't matter. Whatever result we have, we are going to use order by on that result. So we are using order by on age. So age is sorted in ascending order on that result. Okay. So there are many different applications for each different clause and importance. So I hope this is clear. And here one more thing is, like we have discussed from clause. We are using from clause to choose the table from which we want to display the data. So it has another application, like you must have some idea about joins, table joins. So here is the example. Let's say, okay, as I mentioned earlier, we have conducted a coding competition uh, among all senior universities, right? So let's say head of department sent students to that coding competition, and let's say the competition is over, and results are there. Results are in form of ranks. Okay, so what organizers did is they stored the results in another table, which is accessible to every university, every SUNY university. Okay, so if we want to access that result, what we have to do is we are going to use join on those tables. We have one table right here, we have record here, we have student ID and all other details. So what we are going to do is we are going to join the our table and the table which organizer created. Organizer created a table called rank, let's say, and that rank here, and that rank table has student ID. It must have, right, because we want to know which student got what rank. So that table has student ID along with the global rank. So we have that table. We want to access our student data. So what we are going to do is use select query, select clause. We are going to join these tables, our table and that rank table, like table 1 and table 2. We are going to use join clause, and we are going to put some condition which will give us result. So here is a query. Select s.sid r.global rank, and this S is alias name for students table, R is alias name for rank table. So what we are going to do is we are going to join the students table, rank table. We are going to give them alias name as S and R, where we want to display student ID and global rank. We are going to display student ID from students table, and we are going to display rank global rank from rank table. So that's why we have used SID, s.sid, that represents I want to display the data student ID from students table and global rank from rank table. Got it? So select s.sid, comma r.global rank from students S join rank R. We are joining these tables, giving ls name to those tables, and using this ls name to select attributes, list of attributes. Simple. And we are going to put some condition because there are going to be different records, right? We have lots of records here, but we have sent only those students who has qualified, and this records has some other student ID as well, from which belongs to students from other university, let's say S002, S001. But we know that we have students with BID, B002, B003, and so on. So we want only those records which matches with the students of our university. So we have to match student ID. So we are going to put condition. Remember where clause. Only difference here is we are going to use on clause instead of where clause whenever we are using join clause. Okay. So we are implementing a condition here. Let's read it as where student ID from S table is equal to student ID from rank table. Okay, so we have records in our students table B002, B003. It's going to check each and every record. B002 matches with a record in our table. Yes, if it is, if it matches, we are going to select that particular record. So we are going to select this record, this record, this record, and this one. Right? Simple. This is very simple. Let me explain it again. We are going to join the table, two tables, because we want to, because we have two tables, two different tables, and we want to display the data from both the table, which is relevant for us. So we are going to join this table using join clause. Students is one table, rank is one table. We are going to give ls name for our convenience, s and r. We want to display student id from students table. We want to display global rank from rank table. So that is the selection of the attributes, and this is the selection of the table. And while selecting the table, we are also joining the table. And this is where clause, which is this clause is mentioned that this clause is similar to where clause. Whenever we are using join, we are going to use on clause instead of where clause. And as a condition, we are going to match student id from both the tables. There must be some common attribute, right? We have to match the relations between these two tables. So there must be some common attribute. In this case, it is student id. So that's why we are using this attribute only for our condition. Simple. I hope you have understood this. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. And I know this video is supposed to be small one, 15 minutes at max, but there was a lot of content that I wanted to explain. So thank you everyone, and I hope you understood every single clause. And if you have any questions, uh, please reach out to me. Okay, thank you. Have a nice day.